Hey guys, I'm Tiffany.
I'm Stephanie.
And we're Sisters
Sisters
of
of
the
the
South,
South.
back with another Missing Persons Monday. And we're going to go ahead and jump into this story. And it's a little longer. So here we go.
Yeah, today we're going to talk about Mary Shotwell Little. She has been missing for 60 years. Where is she? There is a question that has been in the minds and hearts of Atlanteans since her abrupt disappearance in 1965. With so many strange pieces of the puzzle and no new leads in decades, her case has been baffled with the best crime investigators in the country. So, how can someone just disappear yet leave so many clues behind? I mean, this is just incredible to me because people just don't fall off the face of the earth, and
Yeah.
it's so scary. So, Mary Shotwell Little was born on January 14th, 1940. Little appears to be known about Mary's early life, except that she did study to be a secretary at North Carolina College for Women, now UNC in Greensboro. However, about 6 weeks before she vanished, on Labor Day weekend 1965, she married a man named Roy Little Jr. The couple lived in an apartment in Decatur, Georgia, which is northeast of Atlanta. Mary worked as a secretary at the Citizens and Southern National Bank in Atlanta. The bank is now Bank of America.
Okay.
On the afternoon of Thursday, October 14th, 1965, Mary Shotwell Little left work and drove to Lenox Square in Atlanta, Georgia, to meet up with a female coworker for dinner and shopping. Before meeting for dinner, she stopped at a Colonial Grocery in Lenox. She and her husband, Roy, who at the time was a bank examiner, were planning a dinner party with friends for the following evening, and she needed to purchase groceries for the occasion. Mary's coworker said that she seemed fine at dinner, nothing seemed wrong or off with her. Mary was expecting company that weekend and needed to clean the apartment. Her coworker said that Mary said she'd see her in the morning and was off to her car. This would be the last time Mary's coworker would ever see her. The next day, October 15th, Mary didn't show up for work and hadn't called in sick, which was unusual because Mary was known to be reliable. And this is the sad part, and we've discussed this in other cases. It this seems to happen to people who are very strict with their routine.
Mm-hmm.
The good part is that people notice immediately. That doesn't always mean a case can be solved, but at least people notice, hey, something is
They're
really
paying
wrong here.
attention. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Mary's boss asked her friend, the one she had dinner with the night before, if Mary seemed sick, but her friend said she had seemed fine and even said something to the effect of, "See you tomorrow." Mary's coworkers attempted to call her apartment, but there was no answer, and they would eventually get a hold of the apartment manager who went to go and check in the apartment. The manager stated that the mail and the newspaper were still outside and there was no sign of groceries that Mary had brought.
So where's her husband?
Well, we'll get there.
Okay.
We'll get there. At this point, Mary's boss reported her missing to the police and then went to Lenox Square Shopping Center to look for her car. There is some confusion about who found Mary's car, her boss or the shopping center security guard. But nonetheless, either way, Mary's 1965 Mercury Comet was found in the Lenox Square parking lot with no sign of Mary. Nevertheless, police searched the parking lot at Lenox for her car, and around noon it was found in the yellow 32 section of the lot. Blood specks were found on the interior and exterior of her 1965 metallic gray Mercury Comet. The groceries she had purchased the previous evening were still in the back seat of the car. Mary's car keys were missing, and there was a layer of red dirt on the outside of the car, meaning it had been driven at some point. There were also spots of blood in several places, including the driver's side door. Mary's underwear appeared to be balled up in the back seat, which obviously at that point, not just the blood that's on the car, but now her panties are balled up in the back seat. So immediately you know someone was trying to hurt Mary.
Yeah.
Definitely. An unidentified fingerprint was also found on the steering wheel. Upon limited blood analysis, it was concluded that the blood belonged to Mary because it was her blood type. It seemed clear that Mary never made it home the night of October 14th. Since there wasn't a lot of blood, police determined that Mary could still be alive because the amount of blood could just be from a nosebleed and the scene looked like it had been staged, but her panties are balled up in the back seat.
Yeah, and you don't grab your panties to stop a nosebleed.
No, and you don't throw them in the back seat wadded up either. I mean, most people don't. No, nobody that I know. So police began an extensive search, interviewing workers and customers at Lenox Square Shopping Center. Investigators even asked private pilots to fly over areas of interest, assuming wooded areas, for any sign of Mary. And assuming wooded interest areas would be, you know, probably the shopping center's carved out, but there's probably like in our area, when you're in the suburbs, there's still going to be wooded area around that hasn't been built up yet.
Yep.
Curiously, there is a block of time in which the car was not in the yellow 32 section of the parking lot.
Okay.
The security agents who monitored Lenox parking lot did not see the gray Comet while doing their morning rounds. But when
Oh.
officers searched the lot around noon, the car was there.
So someone brought it back.
Yeah, hence the red dirt that's on the
Well, not
car.
just that, they would have had to get her from the the department store, correct? I
Yes.
mean, to know where to bring the car back.
Yes.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, you would think for sure. Authorities also noticed about 40 miles on the odometer that were unaccounted for. Roy, Mary's husband, was looked at in her disappearance. I mean, of course he was. He needed to be. Absolutely.
Yeah.
He didn't seem bothered by it. He was more worried about her car, and Mary's former roommates didn't like him very much. It's unclear why.
Okay, but somebody knew how many miles were on the car. You can ask
Mm-hmm.
me. I think I know because I noticed it and it was like 25,000. And I was
Yes.
like, dude, I actually looked at it.
Yes.
Don't ask me any other day.
Well, I did think about that actually when I was doing the research. And, you know, back many, many years ago, a lot
Maybe
of
they knew
people would
that.
keep a log on a notepad when they
True.
would fill their car up to kind of understand gas mileage.
Because now we have a button.
Yeah, now we have a button and it tells us and it analyzes it for us. Back then,
Well, maybe he
you
was
didn't.
very particular about it, considering he's only worried about the vehicle.
Yeah, and you would think he's the one that would make her do that once you kind of hear about him. So
Oh, okay.
these roommates didn't attend the couple's wedding due to this dislike. Roy also refused to take a lie detector test, but he had a solid alibi for the time of the crime. He was out of town on business. I mean, of course, aren't they always out of town on
Yes,
business?
they always are.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
always. Mhm. About a month after Little's disappearance, investigators traced her credit card to a gas station in Charlotte, North Carolina, and it was used again in Raleigh, North Carolina. The signatures on the receipts matched hers. Attendants at both gas stations were questioned, and both remembered seeing a woman in distress accompanied by at least one man, possibly two unshaven, middle aged men who seemed to have control over her. I don't know why it would be possibly two unshaven men, but nonetheless, maybe it had been a couple of days since it occurred and they were trying to put their get their thoughts together.
Yeah, it happens. I mean, you're busy.
Right. And there's a lot of people that come in.
Yeah.
She had minor head injuries and blood stains on both of her head and legs. This woman would not look the attendant in the eyes and seemed to be stressed over possibly alerting them for her being in danger. The North Carolina license plate number on the credit card slip was reported stolen just days before Mary had disappeared.
Okay. Again, here we have it. It's a time where people don't get involved, but
Yes,
she's bloody.
right. E- Exactly. I mean, pick up
That's
the
not
phone,
normal.
write down the license plate number, and call and say, look, I think this woman's in distress. You don't even have to let,
I think she's hurt.
yeah, I think
Something's
she's hurt.
going
Something's
on.
wrong. You don't even have to let this lady know that's hurt that you're going to do it. You just do it. That way she's not stressed out that she thinks you're going to. But I mean,
So sad.
it is. On October 17th, Roy told the investigator assigned to this case that he had received a phone call from a man named Calvin Allen, who expressed his heartfelt prayers and condolences regarding Mary's disappearance. The puzzling part about this phone call is Roy had no idea who Calvin was and had no connection to him.
And he didn't ask, like, who are you?
Yes,
See,
I'd be
when people
saying,
call me, I'm like, okay, who are you?
who are you and
How
how
do
do
you
you
know
know?
her?
And how do you know I'm her husband?
How do you know that this is happening?
Exactly. It's very strange. After this, Roy would receive a ransom call requesting upwards of $20,000 for the remains of Mary. The caller told Roy to go to the Pizog National Forest and follow instructions from a poster nailed to a tree. An investigator went to the Pigzog National Forest on behalf of Roy, only to find a blank piece of paper nailed to the tree. This confused him and led the investigator to believe that this was possibly a hoax. Roy or family members never received another phone call like this again. In 1962, after finishing college, Mary Shotwell Little moved from her hometown of Charlotte, North Carolina, to Atlanta. She started a new job as a secretary at the Mitchell Street branch of Citizens and Southern Bank, C&S Bank. She lived with 3 roommates at 1300 University Drive, Northeast, until she married Roy H. Little. In September of 1965, the newlyweds moved to 1609 Line Circle in Decatur. In the weeks leading up to her disappearance, her behavior became erratic. Little became paranoid and afraid of something or someone. She was very weary of being in her home or car alone. Mary received unusual phone calls at work. Her coworkers heard her say things like, I'm a married woman now, and you can come over to my house anytime you like, but I can't come over there. Shortly before October 14th, she received 5 red roses from a secret admirer whose identity is still a mystery to this day.
Huh.
So I don't think coworkers would make this thing up.
No, there's no
You know,
reason to it.
yeah, and back then you didn't have computers or anything. It was just literally phones and a
Paper.
pen and a piece of paper. Um, it probably was pretty quiet for the most part, and you're in an open space, so it's not like there's any privacy. So, people are here, and you can't help but overhear those kinds of things. So I'm sure that they thought that's weird, that's odd, or, so who
Well, and
this
she
person,
received roses, and
yes.
everyone's going to ask, oh, they're beautiful. Who are they from?
Yes, and if they don't like her husband, it's probably because they don't think he treats her very well. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but more than likely, and it's probably out of character that he would do anything like that for her.
True.
So they're automatically going to think it's someone else.
But who was she seeing before?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it was someone she'd had a relationship with
Yeah,
at some point, or
romantically.
yeah, to be that comfortable with her. There is one theory that Mary's disappearance had something to do with a scandal at the bank where she worked.
What?
This scandal was described as prostitution on the bank premises.
What?
Yeah. The FBI was even called in to investigate all of this, but no charges were ever filed.
What?
Yeah. Isn't that
I'm
crazy?
sorry. What is happening at
In
this
a
bank in
in a right.
1965?
Isn't that crazy? Apparently, Mary knew about this scandal, but since no charges were ever filed, it's unclear if this was a real scandal at all.
So maybe this was a secret romantic relationship
Yes.
brought on by, yeah.
It's crazy.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, this got really
Real
interesting.
interesting, real quick, not to mention, right now there's a lot of scandals going on in the media, and this stuff was going on back in 1962. Isn't that crazy? I mean, this isn't new, folks. This has been going on, but the thing is now people are more brave to bring it to the forefront. So let's keep that
Yeah.
going. A 20-year-old woman named Diane Shields took over Mary's job after Mary went missing. Interestingly, Diane herself would go missing in 1967 after leaving work, but she would later be found in the trunk of her car, fully clothed and not robbed.
What?
Yes, isn't that crazy? That is crazy. While investigators initially believed the cases were connected due to both women's ages and place of employment, but there was no real evidence linking the cases. Diane Shields' case also has never been solved. At the time she vanished, Mary Shotwell Little was 25 years old. She is a white woman who stood at 5 foot 6 inches and was about 120 pounds, with green hazel eyes and light brown hair. Mary was wearing a London fog raincoat and an olive green sheath dress with flowers on it. She also had a platinum wedding ring, a solitary engagement ring, a North Carolina woman's college ring, and a bracelet. No stone was left unturned. Anyone who may have known Mary or what happened to her was questioned by authorities. Some believed it was a random person who did this, others thought it had to be someone who knew her. Possibly connections to other cases were investigated, but nothing was available or ever come to the forefront on that. Since Little's body was never found and no leads ever developed, the case may never be solved. So I'm not sure that they did the due diligence of another older case that we just did um, from Canada, but it sounds like they did try.
Right. It just seems odd to me that the woman that took her position, the same position, also went
Yes.
missing.
Yes. Isn't
I'm
that
not
crazy?
convinced that that's not related,
I'm not convinced either because that's,
especially with like the scandal and all this stuff going on.
it makes me think there might have been more to that job position than just answering a phone or what she was
Possibly.
doing. Or maybe you have more access to more information.
Well, I'm
It
sure you do. Yeah.
I mean, I think the husband needed to be looked into more. I never saw anything where he had gotten a polygraph test or anything, but I don't know how often they did polygraphs back in the 60s. But then when you hear that, hey, her replacement gets kidnapped, uh,
Then it
that
makes you look somewhere
then
else.
that makes you veer over here and go, okay, there's no way.
Yeah.
There's no reason why her husband.
Would have
There might have been reason why her husband would have gotten rid of her, and I hate to say that, but there would be no
not her
reason and
replacement.
payoff to get rid of her replacement
Yeah.
at work. So then that makes your mind wander to someone else.
Yeah.
And even if Mary Shotwell was getting phone calls from a stranger that had something to do with this, then what happened with this other lady? Was there a relationship between him and her, or did he decide, okay, now I'm going to step in and have a relationship with her? Did he call for Mary one day just to see what would
Well, he's
happen?
also in the bank business, correct?
Who's that? Her
Her
husband?
husband?
Yes.
So that he could have known her
That's very true. That's
in
very
this scandal, guys.
that's very true. And this scandal thing's crazy because how did that just get dropped? Like, oh, we're going to do some investigating.
You
Oh,
just don't think
never
about that
mind.
happening at a bank.
No.
Any bank I've been in is boring. I just don't
Yeah.
see like
Yeah, maybe the bank was
And
was
at
a
night
cover.
when the doors are locked, you never know what's happening.
Yeah, maybe the bank was a cover for something different, but I still
Maybe, but
wouldn't think
he
a
was in the
bank.
bank business too, so
Yeah.
now I'm even more suspicious about him.
Yes, that's very true. I hadn't thought about that because it is
Mm.
possible that the lady that took her place, he knew her.
Hmm.
I mean, heck, who's to say he wasn't having an affair with her and he goes, "Hey, my wife's position's open. Go over there and see if you can get that job."
Oh, that's true.
And, he put in a good word for her or something and she got the job. So, I mean, I guess that could be a possibility.
Makes you wonder if people were scared to go to work there.
Because who's this odd guy that called him with a ransom,
Did it even
too?
happen? Or is he just saying it happened?
Well, nobody can prove that the phone call ever took place. The thing is, the cop went there and, nothing ever came from it. And
Right.
they never heard from anybody again. It's almost like
He
whoever
could
it
have made
was
that up.
was just trying to find a scapegoat to get them off their trail.
Yes. Which
Hmm.
now, I mean, we can't do that. But back then, you could lie about any phone call coming
Oh,
in.
you could go to a phone booth and make a phone call. No one would ever know. It was so easy. So, no paper trail for anything
No.
back then, except for a check. If you wrote a check, that was about the only paper trail that they had back then.
Yeah.
So, there was no digital footprint back in the good old days. So, yeah, guys, what do you think? Because I was really stumped. She is a missing person. It's, the case is still unsolved. But what do you guys think? What happened to her? Who do you think it was? It's huge possibility that whoever did this to her is no longer alive.
Right.
But the thing is, these traumas that happen, they carry on generation to generation in families when they're not solved. Even when they are solved, that trauma is carried through, but in a different way. Um, so, yeah, if you guys have any information or any thoughts on that, drop us a line in the comments. I know that her case, it's a cold case, but hey, if you know anything, reach out to the Atlanta PD and let them know. Um, anything, anything that you might have heard from your parents, your grandparents, any information. I'm sure that they would be glad to get any type of tips.
Absolutely. And it sounds
So,
like there's so much to this story.
there's so many caveats and so
Ugh.
many things, and it was a man that was involved in this, not a woman, let's be real.
Right.
So,
Oh, yeah.
it's not her friend that she went shopping with or anything like that, but her husband was conveniently out of town when this happened. Doesn't mean he did it directly, but he might have hired somebody to do
Well,
it as
yeah,
well.
we've seen where that happens.
Yeah, and, that way their hands are clean. Like, I got an alibi. I'm good.
Right.
So, but yeah, let us know what you think. But until the next episode, guys, remember to see
See
the
the good
good
and
and
stay
stay
imperfectly
imperfectly
perfect.
perfect.
Bye,
Bye. Thank
guys.
you.